Okay, I've got a big blur. Why is there a big blur? What is happening? There we go. We'll get this right one of these days. Hello, tarot friends. This is Ultraviolet Morgan, and this is second attempt at the Daily Divine morning message, daily message, pick a card reading. I'm going to try this time to keep it to around 30 minutes. Yesterday's was almost 2 hours, but we're going to try to keep it around 30 minutes, and I will be focusing on the cards rather than the chat. Feel free to say hi. I'll check them out later. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves. And of course, feel free to not watch this live, but watch it later on. Rewatch if you prefer to do it that way. So today's Daily Divine message is pick a card and you pick based on one of these three crystal angel cards. Pile 1 is ametrine, pile 2 is tiger's eye, and pile 3 is watermelon tourmaline. The crystals here do not line up, they're just for decoration. So pile 1 ametrine, pile 2 tiger's eye, pile 3 watermelon tourmaline. Real quick, while everyone is deciding, pause if you'd like more time directed solely on the cards. I will quickly talk about which card decks we'll be using in this video. First, we have the Crystal Angels Oracle card by She Who Must Not Be Named. Artwork by Marius Michael George. And you can see on here the creator of these cards, and if you know a little history of why we don't want to name her, then if you don't, that's okay too. Then we have the Ancient Italian Tarot, which is a sort of, it's a recreation based on a one or two ancient decks from Italy. We have the Tarot of the Haunted House by Sasha Graham. We have the I don't have the box for these. Mythical Tarot. And we have the Fountain Tarot. Oops. The lovely Fountain Tarot, which just fell on my... I just want to give everybody credit. So, the Fountain Tarot, created by Jonathan Sayes, written by Jason Gruhl, and designed by Andy Tadaro. And right. So go ahead, choose pile 1, 2, or 3, and we'll get right into the readings for a daily message from the divine. Pile 1. Pile 1, you chose the Ametrine Angel. The balancing of masculine and feminine energies. Allow your feminine side to creatively inspire you and your masculine side to give you confidence. So, this beautiful purplish stone has the sunset colors of gold peeking out from it, as it is a mixture of violet amethyst and yellow citrine, hence ametrine. It is because of its dual nature that ametrine is considered such a wonderful stone for balancing your masculine and feminine sides. Or, if you prefer not to use masculine and feminine terminology, your active and receptive sides, or active and receptive capacities. Okay, our first card is the Chariot, Il Caro. Then we have the I'm going to straighten out. Straighten. So we don't have those wrinkles. Sorry. The Hermit in reverse. The Ace of Swords and the Ace of Swords. Double Ace of Swords. Delightful. With this reading, I see a whole entire feeling of enlightenment, of understanding, of kind of light bulb moments. Messages being trying to think of the word that I want that's not enlightenment specifically. Illuminated, that's the word. Right. Insights, learning, understanding, illumination. This is a reading of illumination. The first message that wants to be illuminated is the balance of the masculine and feminine properties, or the balance of active and receptive. Aces are cards of reception. Aces are cards of receiving something from the divine. The Chariot card is a card of moving forward, a forward motion, but it is also a card. The Chariot is not just a vehicle, but it is a military war vehicle. It is a card of victory. It is a card of power. It's also a card about harnessing these two forces. And here we're talking about the balance of the masculine and feminine. The Chariot, a lot of times the Chariot card will show a black or a dark and a white or light horse sort of facing away from each other. Here we have two white horses cloaked in red. But a lot of times we'll see, the balance of opposites there. And the Chariot horses may be wanting to move in separate directions, but it is up to the charioteer to control the horses so that they move together in unison. Because if the horses move in opposite directions, clearly the chariot will not go far. It won't go anywhere. So here we have another example of how you need to balance your energies today. Focus and balance your energies. Although you do need them to go in the same direction, you also do need both horses to pull in unison together. So you need both of those energies. The Hermit card is in reverse. This Hermit card shows this is possibly the Fool who's wandering around in the haunted house. This is the tarot of the haunted house. Usually the Hermit card is alone. Here the Hermit thinks he's alone, but someone is watching from afar. Okay? So the Hermit goes by himself alone to separate from the world. He goes up on a high hill. The world is below him. He goes up into his ivory tower to study his books. He's not just a random misanthrope who just doesn't like people, although possibly he may or may not. But he goes to clear his mind. He goes to absorb the learning, He goes up with a purpose. And that's why he carries this lamp of enlightenment, because he can light a path through the darkness, which ironically, so do the swords, which not only illuminate, but they also come to a point, and swords also divide. They divide between, you can divide between what is worthwhile and what is not worthwhile, what is masculine and what is feminine, or what is active, what is receptive. Rather than, as we often do, seeing things on a spectrum, the sword divides things very neatly into two sides. One is on this side of the sword, one is on the other side of the sword. Now, this is basically a construct to understand things, to divide things neatly in order to understand them as opposites or part of a binary. Neither the binary nor the spectrum are absolute truth. They're just ways to think about it, which may or may not be completely off point for your message. It came to me for some reason, so maybe it is part of your message. So the message here is definitely about balancing the two sides in order to accomplish the victory that you set forth, and you being the person in control of the two forces. I'm going to look into the book about the ametrine because I know that it says some helpful, interesting things. It says this card comes up whenever you find yourself stuck in your masculine energy because of a competitive or stressful work or family situation. Perhaps you feel like you had to do battle or be extra vigilant. Right? Vigilance, battle. Yet there's a time to balance that masculine energy with the nurturing gentleness of your feminine energy. Every person has both of these energies within. Balancing them is essential for health and effectiveness in life. The feminine energy receives divinely inspired ideas and creative insights, and the masculine energy puts those ideas into motion. Both are equally important as they are 50-50 partners. Too much of the feminine energy can lead... Ironically, these are masculine cards, but in this reading, they do speak of this feminine energy of receiving the divine creative insights. Where was I? Too much feminine energy can lead to passivity, where dreams aren't acted upon, and too much masculine energy can result in uninspired or aggressive action. I want to point out that feminine energy is often described as passive whereas I prefer to refer to it as receptive. I think passive, I suppose there's always a time and place for everything, but I think, passive is more of a shadow of the feminine energy, whereas receptive is extremely important. And to receive and to be passive are not the same. So that's my feelings about that. So today is a good day to meditate on balance, on your receptive and your active energies, on balancing insight with motion. You can get a lot of good ideas, but if you don't put them into action, nothing will come of it. On the other hand, if you just act without any good ideas, the action can be fruitless. Once you meditate on that balance, you may find that your stress levels are reduced and and you may be able to relax when you come home from work. So that's another important thing is with the balance is you receive your idea and your insight, then you act upon it, and then you know when to put it down, and now is the time for passivity, perhaps. Now you're not into receiving or acting, but now you've moved into the third phase where you kind of let all of that go and just have that restorative time. Okay? So that is the message for pile 1. I hope that was helpful for you for your day. And it was a plan to do morning cards. I guess it depends on where you are because morning is over where I'm at, but I'm still going to call them morning cards because it's always morning somewhere. Okay. Pile number 2, sorry. Pile number 2 for those who selected the Tiger's Eye. Tiger's Eye is a protective stone, which I remember specifically from the TV or the movie Practical Magic. When the one sister goes to get her other sister from a bad situation, she said she lost her tiger's eye and she needs it for protection. So this card says self-confidence through God confidence. Believe in yourself by believing in the divine working through you. So I have heard before, rather than asking God or the divine to bless your plans or help your plans succeed, become a part of the divine's plan, and then you're guaranteed to succeed, right? Or at least if you're working for something bigger, then your work even if you in your lifetime don't complete your work or don't complete the larger work, you're a part of it. So you'll always be successful within that frame, right? So let's look at the other cards for this reading. Fonte di Cape. Okay, I believe this is the Page of Cups. It's got to be a page. A beautiful blonde page holding this large cup. And the lid. With a lid. It's like a urn. In the page is a beautiful either woman or feminine man. Long flowing hair and flowers in the hair. So I'm just checking the book real quick to see if there's any sort of guidance about Fonte di Cape. Or I'll look at the... Okay. So the Knights are Cavaliers, and it's not a king or a queen. So definitely, as I assumed, it is the page. Moving on to the message. To the other cards. We have the Fool. So here we have quite a youthful energy. The Fool is the beginning of the journey, and the Page is also at the beginning of his or her journey. Then we have the Four of Wands. Four of Wands. And we have the Death card in reverse. Whoops. Okay, sorry. That was in reverse. I forgot to go to the Tiger's Eye message or description. So, noted for its coloring and stripes resembling a tiger, Tiger's Eye is a golden brown quartz stone that can bring you a feeling of safety and protection. Tiger's Eye helps you feel like a tiger yourself, filled with courage, confidence, and ferocity. And when we have the Fool, especially, we talk about the Fool is young and naive. This Fool looks scared, but generally the Fool is brave. The Fool doesn't really know any better, but the Fool... A friend of mine, may she rest in peace, used to always say, God watches out for fools and children, right? So the Fool has the protection because the Fool... the Fool just has that youthful enthusiasm that somehow works out, you see somebody with that, you see their naivety, you think to yourself that that's never going to work out, but it's like they don't know enough to know that what they're doing is impossible. Therefore, they do accomplish the impossible because they just don't realize that everyone else thinks it's impossible, and they're stopped by that. They're stopped by that in their head. That's a thought stopper. You can't do that. That's impossible. It's never been done before. Versus the Fool, who just takes it on. And the Fool isn't necessarily brave. The Fool just doesn't know to be afraid. Because the Fool can still feel that divine presence. To me, the Fool is that our soul or our beingness before or as it's incarnating. So the Fool just hasn't been away from the protection of the divine and hasn't been embodied for that long. Like a newborn baby who doesn't yet know not to put its face in water, not to touch fire. It just doesn't have the awareness, because previously it was protected. And so it still feels like it's protected, and it doesn't think that, harm can come to it. So through this youthful energy, we have the Four of Wands, which is the early stage of celebration and success and stability. When you're moving towards something that's greater than yourself, when you're in line with divinity, and you just find that doors open, that successes happen, that sometimes the impossible happens, things come really easily at first, and then you get established, and then, as things go on, as always, problems crop up, whatever. So I think part of the daily message today is to, what would you do, or what would you accomplish, if you, what is that saying? If you knew anything was possible, if you knew that you could not fail, think about that. Think about what you would accomplish if you just knew you couldn't fail, or failure hadn't occurred to you yet. And kind of move forward in faith, knowing that you do have that protection in the early stages, until once you get established, then you'll have that stability that you created to sort of prove to you that you did have, that you were capable of accomplishing this thing. And then with the Death card in reverse, that's really telling me that this isn't about a huge transformation. This isn't about Death card is not about death, except when it is. But in this reading, I feel like the Death card in reverse is really talking about fears in a way. To not, not be afraid. What can you focus on and let go of your fears, your doubts, and your insecurities? Let go of the end. Let go of the what's the word? The destination, the fool's journey. Think of the journey. It's very cliche to say it's about the journey and not the destination. But in this case, this is really a message about embracing the journey itself, and not the goal or the outcome, or the destination. So this is not about setting goals. This is about setting systems and routines, rather than setting a goal of getting into shape. For example, set in the routine and the system to walk every day, or to go to the gym if that's your thing, or doing the things along the path that lead to the success of the goal. If you want to write a book, if you write a page every day, eventually you'll have enough pages that you'll have a book. You'll have a first draft. You'll obviously have to revise and all these things. But at the end of the day, if you never ever think about what it'll be like when my book is done, but you just write the next page of the story each and every day, at the end of a certain amount of time, you'll have the book. You'll have the outcome. I think there's a book called Bird by Bird or something that talks about this kind of Buddhist philosophy. But the message today really is just to feel that protection around you and feel the protection of your plants, just get in the headspace that what you do today is divinely protected, and take those first steps, but make your take those first steps to put the system in place, that system that perpetuates, that will keep you on the path. Because that's the important thing, is just staying on the path and continuing with the consistency and continuing with the enthusiasm that you have in the beginning, and holding on to that when you reach the milestones of success in the Four of Wands. So that's the message for pile 2. Now we're going to move on to pile 3. Okay. For those who chose pile 3, watermelon tourmaline. Here's a watermelon tourmaline. And I'll read the description of the watermelon tourmaline. This beautiful granite stone is translucent green on the outside and deep pink on the inside, hence the watermelon name. Watermelon tourmaline is a soothing crystal that helps with simplifying and de-stressing your life. It's interesting because yesterday I got messages, today I got messages of de-stress, and another reading was about, moving forward, being active, which distressing can be active as well, but I feel like, I don't know, I just feel like some people's messages that they need to chill out, and some people's messages they need to be more activated, right? So for pile 3, we have the watermelon tourmaline, and then we have El Papa, the Pope or the High Priest, in reverse. Interesting. So just from this, I just got this feeling of calling in for a sick day or a personal day, right? Which isn't necessarily saying that everyone getting this reading should do that. But the Pope is about, or the High Priest is about, tradition and structures and hierarchy and rules. And with it being reverse, it's just giving me, with stress reduction and the Pope in reverse, it's giving me like playing hooky kind of vibes, but not without good cause, but really needing that personal day for yourself to de-stress. Then we have the High Priestess, so a little bit more focus on the feminine energy, the receptive, and I think of feminine energy more often as receptive than I do as, and I spoke about this in pile 1's reading, passive. However, in this reading, I do get more of a passive feeling. This is like a message of do less today. Call in, or, if you can't call in, or if you don't have a job that you clock into, but you work from home, or you're a stay-at-home parent, homemaker, student, whatever. Today is kind of a day to take it easy as much as possible. It's not always possible to do nothing, but do less, cut back. Where can you just not today? Where can you let things slide? Don't let things slide if they're important, but where are you stressing about something that isn't going to make that much of a difference? Randomly popped into my head, super random. I know a lot of women like to straighten their hair with a hair straightener. And, for some, it looks really nice. For other people, I've watched videos, and I don't have the patience for that kind of thing. But I've watched videos where I personally feel like you spent 45 minutes to get about a 5% improvement in your hair. Okay? So if your hair is already relatively straight, and today you just choose to skip it, brush it, and blow dry it straight instead of using the straightener, and you've got hair that'll let you do that. I'm not saying nobody ever should straighten their hair. I'm just saying, for some people, some of those steps can be skipped today. Maybe not every day, but what little things can you skip that will make very little difference, and yet could save you 45 minutes, or could save you the hassle, the stress, whatever, just try to drop off a few little things, and you pick them back up tomorrow, or maybe tomorrow you'll decide you really didn't need to do them at all, but maybe it doesn't mean that you just have to be a slacker forever. It's okay to just kind of let today be the day that I know my hand's moving around, causing all these shadows. It's okay to let today be the day that you just let a few things go that you normally wouldn't. The Tower. As I tell you, everything will not fall apart if you let a few things go. And we have the Ace of Swords. So what do we think about the Tower in this reading about stress reduction? Very interesting. I think that the Tower does speak to the fear that if you're not perfect, you're not good enough. And today's message is really saying you are good enough, and you don't need to be perfect, and you don't even need to try to be perfect every single day. It's okay to it's okay to do less. It's okay to do less sometimes, even if most of the time you do more. Just some people are really afraid. All right. Some people are really afraid that if they loosen the reins at all, they'll just completely lose track. And I think that that's just not true, because I think that's really not in the nature of the people who do that sort of thing. And I think that if you relax the reins and keep an eye on things, don't just ignore what happens, but take a few breaths and wait and see if everything crumbles, if you don't do this thing, right? So this is a chance to reduce stress and reevaluate what things are essential and what things are not, because there are some essential things that you're going to need to do. Now, another thing this reading reminds me of is a video I saw about quiet quitting. I think that's what it was called, quiet quitting. So this is where you go to your job and it's basically kind of phoning it in. Obviously, if you are a person who is ambitious and you want to move up in your job, this is not something that you want to do or want to do very often. But there are just times where, for example, for people who cannot call into work today, or don't want to, there's a way to just pull back, and there's kind of a spectrum, between doing absolutely everything at absolute fast pace and giving 110% and giving 0%. There's 90%, that if you're normally 110%, which is technically impossible, right? That's 20% more stress reduction, basically. That's, and 90% is an A, right? So there's ways that you can sort of quiet quit. You can sort of delegate the things that other people can do. You can move a little slower as long as it's, kind of fast enough to get done what needs to be done. But you're not trying to win the Nobel Prize today. Today is a day where you're trying to conserve a little bit of energy. And another point about this tower really is, if you don't reduce some stress, this thing that you're worried about of everything falling apart will inevitably happen if you don't find a way to reduce your stress. Something's got to give type of thing. And I just noticed something really interesting in this card I'll get to in just a moment, but something's got to give. Burning your candle at both ends, right? Many, many people do this. They burn their candle at both ends. They say they'll sleep when they die. Well, that probably is going to come sooner for them than for others, because when you literally burn a candle at both ends, it burns out twice as fast, right? Burnout is a real issue. Health problems are a real issue. Stress causes illness. So stress reduction isn't just goofing off. It's important. And stress reduction is self-care, but it's also again, what's the word? Conducive to your long-term success. Okay, if you have long-term goals and you're you're grinding, right? You're grinding towards those long-term goals. You do occasionally need to reduce the stress. Okay, even Beyonce, even celebrities, a lot of times you'll hear, that they've canceled a show because or they've been hospitalized because they wouldn't cancel a show due to exhaustion. To normal people, we are like, I'm exhausted all the time. Who goes to the hospital for that? You cannot run forever without refueling. And absolutely, people will crumble due to exhaustion because they forgot the importance of stress reduction. Stress is important. You need that balance. And on the topic of balance, as I said, I found it extremely interesting. We've got the Pope card, who has the two. There's usually two pillars of some sort behind him. This is, of course, like a tapestry, but it's represented. And we have the pillars on the High Priestess card. We have the one tower, which is, the stressed, broken down tower. And then we have the two towers here on the Ace of Swords. And then we also have three towers here. We've got the one in the middle and we've got the two on the side. So we absolutely have this message, this visual message of balance and the importance of balance. And the only card that doesn't have that balance is our tower, which is crumbling into the sea, right? So even with it in reverse, you still have the tower format on either side. I really didn't have much. Really haven't said much on the Ace of Swords yet. Swords are, of course, our suit of mental thoughts. And a lot of our stress comes from our thoughts. It comes from our busy lives, but it also comes from our thoughts. And it's important to balance our thoughts as well as our actions. So while we're slowing down and reducing our stress today, we also need to think about not staying in that mental place of feeling like we should be doing something, feeling like we should be moving, we should be grinding, we should be producing, right? We need to have the realization, Ace of Swords represents a realization, that taking the time to de-stress, taking some of the stress off so things don't break, taking this balance is not irresponsible. It is responsible. It is the responsible thing to do. It is the best thing to do for the long-term success of whatever it is that we're reaching towards. It is the best thing for our health. Stress absolutely causes illness. Physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress causes illness. If you study an illness in the body, it generally comes down to an organ or something within you is stress. It is not have, it has had, it's worked too hard. If you have, say, pancreatitis, your pancreas has been stressed. You've eaten things that have made your pancreas have to overwork itself, and now it's stressed out and it's damaged due to that stress. Okay, just a random thing that came into my head, but when you think of stress only as a psychological issue, it is not only psychological. It is very physical, and it's in no way irresponsible to take care of ourselves in that way that we can reduce our stress levels at times. We need that balance. We need stress to push us forward, but we also need to give ourselves full permission to de-stress our minds, our bodies, and our schedules, and take the time to rest, recharge, and revive, and not think of it as slacking off, but realize in the long term it is the most conducive and positive things to reach the other side. If your goal is to become CEO of this office building right here, what good does it do if you become terminally ill before on your way to that goal? Or even when you reach it, as soon as you reach it, then you find out that you haven't been taking care of your body, or that you've been under so much stress that things have been able to take hold, and now you're ill, right? What if you have a heart attack? It doesn't do any good to do all that grinding towards a goal to have a heart attack halfway there. You did not make your goal. You did not succeed by pushing yourself so hard that you gave yourself a heart attack. So you want to be the CEO of this building, right? This balanced building, and not this one. You don't want to be in this office right here, right? You don't even want to be in this office down here. So I think I went on the longest about this one pile. Just had a lot to say about it. So pile 3, just a very important message today: to de-stress, to take it easy as much as you can, whether that means calling in or whether that just means pulling back some. Don't eat lunch at your desk. Go out, or even go to the cafeteria, but go to a restaurant if you have the time, or whatever. Leave your desk, leave your work. Take at least 20 minutes, whether you get a 30-minute lunch or a hour lunch, take at least 20 of those minutes to breathe, to focus on your food, maybe some, other people around you, but to get your head out of whatever the pressing work question is. And actually, a lot of times when we have a mental problem churning in our brains, when we let it go and we set it down for a minute and we go do something else, that's kind of when the answer just kind of comes to us. So it's really, really important for pile 3 to ease up on yourself today and know that it's not a cap out, it's not a flake out, it's not laziness, right? Thank you, pile 3. That is your reading. I feel like I can just keep saying it, but it's mostly repetition. But I just feel like a lot of people do need that message, that because people feel like taking the time for themselves or doing anything to ease up is laziness, or is that they feel guilty for it. And the guilt is just another form of stress. It's just super important to align your mind, get all of you in line with this idea of stress reduction. Don't stress about stress reduction. Don't feel bad for going to get a massage. Don't feel bad for spending the money if you can afford it, or taking the time out of your day, or whatever, Know that it's positive, and it's a work towards your goals. It's not about whether or not you deserve it either. Everybody deserves to take care of themselves. Everyone deserves to de-stress. So that's it. Thank you, pile 3. And if anyone's still around, thank you to piles 1, 2, 3. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. If you're interested in this kind of content, I do I'm working on doing like a morning read. I'm trying to do a brief morning read, but I'm not that brief of a person. I want to do a brief morning read so that I can have a brief morning read that doesn't sap all my energy, so then I can still be available to do live readings, tarot topics, and tarot education and other fun videos. So if those are the topics that you are interested in and you're interested in being part of the online YouTube tarot community, you just like hanging out, subscribe and hit the bell for notifications for the next time, and I'll see you then. Until then, this is Ultraviolet Morgan saying be well.